Good morning. Let's have a look. How'd you get on yesterday? Wow, what a fascinating pair of turnarounds. 0-0 at half-time. Could have laid the draw second half here. I'm afraid I was wilting then. It was getting towards 4:30 a.m. I just couldn't... Well, I didn't want to predict an angle because with Everton, it's so difficult.
This market is now in play.
The first goal is so crucial. Everton score it, they tend to win. Everton don't score it, they tend to lose. That's what happens under Sean Dyche. That is emphatic. I don't know where that 3 goals came from. So I think even if laying the draw second half, you'd have had to think a little bit, or maybe not. You'd have got away with it with the time. 79th minute, I was thinking the market would have preferred Newcastle to have scored first. This, I suspect, had an element of pre-Champions League about it. So ripe for the plucking for Everton. And patterns we're going to look for post the 10-point deduction. Is there more urgency to this Everton side? And is that urgency going to result in more goals, more entertaining matches? Because this is an emphatic win. Catching Newcastle pre-Champions League, perfect. And the Newcastle conceding 2+ goals away from home as well. Tottenham and West Ham, didn't see this coming. Ange Postecoglou will not be a happy bunny. I wouldn't have laid Tottenham leading 1-0. I would have, I think, been happier had West Ham scored first to have laid them. But here goes Jim Bowen, super smashing great, make it 1-1. Ward-Prowse, 74th minute. So good stuff. And a gentle reminder to you, dear folks, of the unpredictability
has been suspended.
Of a London derby. I couldn't have foreseen this coming. Good result for the Hammers as well. But concerns now for Tottenham. Consecutive defeats. Brest and Strasbourg. Well, Brest scored first. That's what we expected, didn't we? But we had a Strasbourg equaliser, which was disappointing from a Strasbourg perspective. No real trade for me there yesterday. I think my main angle coming into the match was to favour Brest throughout. Draw would have been worst case scenario for Brest. They should have really scored 2 goals. PSV and Heerenveen again, 1.2 favourite. 20-minute rule. Here we go. 1-0, 2-0, any unquoted in the half-time score market. Just pick you up a small profit and at least you'll get a return bigger than you would have done with a 1.2. Feyenoord, well, should have been an absolute goal fest, even bigger than 3-0, 3-1, any other home score, which is our usual go-to scorelines, aren't they? But Volendam not reading the script. So how would you have approached this second half? Well, bit of delaying, I think. Again, my apologies. The kick-off at 8 o'clock. That's 3 a.m. where I am. So it's 3:45 to get to half-time. We're heading to nearly 4:45 in the morning to wait for that nice juicy profit. I'm going to have to think about moving to the Western Hemisphere. Because this would have been a very decent profit. Don't forget, you make your biggest gains at the end of the match. Keep faith in a 1.05 shot. You must. So you lay that draw as late as possible, or even you could, those speculative amongst you could have backed 3-1 any other home score, even this late on. That's what you expect of a 1.05, regardless of how long it takes. So that would have been a very decent trade yesterday, the Feyenoord match, had I not got this negative time difference. Belgian Cup, we had a whole raft of cup matches yesterday. No real trading angles there. Of course, we're getting to the really juicy Saturday and Sunday now, so I'm looking forward to that. We had some great live chat webinars on Saturday and Sunday past. So let's have a look onto today. And it's a less than compelling coupon. I haven't done the French match, but I've just done a smattering of matches this evening. Montpellier and Lens. Well, you can look at the preview here, or you could practice your research skills. French Ligue 1 I find very difficult to research. Lens, we know, have been in the Champions League and have an upcoming Champions League match. That's probably why they're playing on a Friday. So automatically, you're going to have to factor that in for Lens. So let's do some research in front of your very eyes and ears. So go off to soccerstats.com and just check through. And you can see how quickly you can get an idea, a pre-match idea of expectation. Again, the absolute ideal is if your pre-match idea is mirrored in a live environment, ka-ching. That's when you start making your money. Like Feyenoord yesterday. If you've got an expectation of 3-0, 3-1 on the other home score, and it's 0-1, 90th minute, go for it. It's going to cost you nothing. And you know they're 1.05 for a reason, because they're expected to win and win easily. Montpellier don't find it easy to win at home. Only the one win against Toulouse at home. So immediately you're on the back foot with Montpellier, aren't you? 2 consecutive draws. Sorry, not 2 consecutive draws. Draw, loss, draw. Not looking very good. You compare that now to Lens since the 24th of September, unbeaten. And this, remember, is while playing Champions League football. Arguable. A couple of these 0-0s would have been Champions League influenced, I would suspect. But they're keeping 3 consecutive clean sheets. Make that 4 consecutive clean sheets away from home. Or automatically, you're looking to Lens keeping Montpellier from scoring 2+ goals. Current streaks and sequences, just give you a quick indication. No defeat in 9 for Lens. Scored 2+ goals in each of the last 2 matches. Work your way down. First goal leading and trailing could give you an idea whether this is a tradable match or not. By which I mean if Lens, for instance, keeps scoring first away from home, they may not be a tradable match. You're wanting, ideally, Montpellier to have an angle in the underdog. So this is 14th against 6th on the challenge table. Challenge table is very important, isn't it? Because it will give you an idea of how teams get on against other teams in the section of the league where their opponent lies. So, for example, Montpellier, 14th in the league, playing 6th. Look at the form for Montpellier against the top 13. No win. Look at the form for Montpellier against the top 9. This is where they almost exclusively lose. 2-1-3 defeats at home might give us a both teams to score angle without Montpellier necessarily crossing the line. Or can they take advantage of Lens pre-Champions League? The 2.5 goal scoring and conceding table. It's not emphatic, is it? No, 71% goals in the first half. Scoring and conceding rates, don't bother with that one. And move down to take a look at the goal times, because they can give you an important angle in as far as time is concerned. So looking at this, 6 out of 8 goals scored at home for Montpellier came second half. So you might want to factor that in, particularly if it's 0-0 at half-time or if Lens are leading 0-1 and the in-play stats are in favour of the Montpellier equaliser. So looking at Lens, you must bear in mind this is pre-Champions League Lens, but they've had 4 consecutive away clean sheets. Pretty solid stuff. No defeat in 9 matches. They're coming into this with real momentum, and it doesn't seem as if the Champions League is negatively affecting their league performances, does it? Albeit those 0-0s might be a reason for that. 14th against 6th, you can see with Lens against 10th and lower, they're unbeaten and haven't conceded a goal away from home against 10th and lower in 4 matches. That could be their angle in. They're unbeaten home and away against 12th and lower and playing 14th today. So they will fancy themselves Lens, but it might be a tight match. You can tell that with the 0-0, 0-1, 0-0 away from home against 10th to 16th. So prepare for that potential for a tight match. But favouring Lens, particularly pre-Champions League. So that's how we're looking at that. How does the pre-match odds suggest? 2.05 for Lens. So it's shade over evens. They're slightly favoured today, probably a bit lukewarm given a pre-Champions League. So what kind of angles will you get out of this? Lens come into this unbeaten. They might struggle to be convincing winners today, but in keeping clean sheets, 4 out of 4 against 10th and lower, they're likely to keep Montpellier capped to 1 goal maximum. That could give us a real angle in. Hoffenheim and Bochum. Well, the problem with Hoffenheim, they're not a trader's friend. No win in 4 for the mighty Hoff. 3 defeats and a draw in the last 4 home matches. They're far, far better away from home. But this looks like a redemption-type match for the Hoff. 1.67 favourites. Both teams have scored in the last 6 home matches and the last 8 overall. So they do score. They have scored in the last 13, Hoff. Opponents have led at half-time in 5 out of 6 at home. So you might expect a goal before half-time. I'm quite happy with the Bochum lead at half-time. I'd consider taking Bochum on. The last time Hoff conceded first, I think, at home was against Mainz, and they equalised soon after. They've conceded 7 goals in the last 15 minutes at home. 5 goals scored in the last 15 minutes of the second half at home as well. Bochum are unbeaten in 5 matches, coming into this in decent nick, but they've not beaten a top 10 side, playing 6th today. Hoffenheim are a trader's nightmare, a bit like Chelsea at the moment. You don't know which one turns up. So we'll look on this with interest, but we'll be paying mind to the 1.67 odds for the Hoff, but the both teams to score angle as well is there. The Dutch Eredivisie, Twente against Excelsior, 1.18 odds. You saw with Feyenoord yesterday. Bear in mind, you've got an assumption with these short odds. 3-0, 3-1, any other home score, and at least a goal before half-time. That's your assumption. If you kept that assumption with Feyenoord right until the death, you would have profited hugely, because you make your big money at the end of the matches. So watch out for Twente again today. Scored first in 6 out of 7 at home, so we might not actually see a tradable outcome today. Twente tend to score first. Both teams have scored in the last 6. So if it's 1-0 late on, you never know. Excelsior might get an equaliser. Portuguese Primeira Liga, Vizela against Braga. This is Champions League for Braga against Napoli next week. Is this going to be a distraction? They are away from home, and they do tend to target pre-Champions League sides away from home, particularly if they're odds-on favourite. Only 2 1-0 wins for Vizela, so that's a real angle coming into this match already, isn't it? Vizela might win 1-0. Cover that 1-0 if they do score first, and have faith in Braga's goal-scoring abilities. 15th against 4th. 7 out of 9 goals conceded at home have come first half of Vizela, so Braga could strike in the first half. 6 wins and a 3-3 draw for Braga recently. Champions League's not really distracting them, is it? They've scored in the last 12 matches. They're unbeaten home and away against 9th and lower, scoring 3+ goals on 6 occasions. But you saw with Everton against Newcastle yesterday, I think that was down to the Champions League, that 3-0 Everton win. So this is the time to take on these big boys. Pre-Champions League, when they will have distractions. It's such a huge competition, they will be distracted. Benfica against Firenze, 1.12. Benfica, pre-Champions League. You get a clue because they're playing on a Friday. 0-0 post last Champions League match. They don't tend to lose pre-Champions League, but they tend to draw post-Champions League. So Benfica, for me, tend to struggle after the Champions League match, not before it. So yes, there have been these kind of odds before, and they've only just got a 1-0 or a 2-1 win. So I don't think that our assumptions about short odds might come to fruition here this evening. It might be a workman-like Benfica win or a struggling Benfica win, 1-0, 2-1, that kind of thing. Not in keeping with the usual 3-0, 3-1, any other home score. 2 consecutive away wins for Firenze, 3-4 and 1-3. Very interesting, but they've lost 3 against the top 8 away, playing second today. Do tend to score and concede Firenze as well. Those are the main matches. Juve against Napoli. Why have I not researched Juve against Napoli? 2.38 the favourite, and a derby-style match as well, and pre-European club competition Champions League for Napoli as well. These derby-style matches tend to be imponderables. I don't like playing them. I call it a derby-style match. It's not strictly a derby match geographically, but when you've got 2 big guns meeting each other, they can cancel things out. That's why I'm a little reluctant to actually research these kind of matches. But while you're here, We can have a cursory glance at the Juventus-Napoli match. Bear in mind, pre-Champions League for Napoli could catch them with the pants down. The old lady don't have anything to worry about in that regard. So let's see what the form lines look like. Probably best attacked via the challenge table, this one. Not really recent form. Challenge table will give you an idea of how these two get on against sides at the upper echelons of the table. Well, you can see Napoli 4 defeats only all season. Juve just a single defeat. Juve coming into this in solid enough form, unbeaten form. Unbeaten in 9 and 7 at home. Unbeaten in 7 away for Napoli. So again, that's the reason for 2.38, the favourite. Can't dismiss Napoli. Scored 2+ goals in the last 4 away. But we've got to put this into context as well. The context being, who are they beating away from home? Look at this. A second against fifth. Napoli are yet to play the top 6 away from home. So question mark about how they're going to perform today against second. Note as well that Napoli, 3 defeats and a draw at home against the top 9. If they're losing to the top 9 with home advantage, then you can infer that away from home, they're going to struggle today, Napoli. Particularly with this Juventus side unbeaten at home, albeit they haven't played 3rd to 6th at home. They've had 2 1-1 draws against 1st and 7th. So both sides could be vulnerable to a fellow top 5 side. And again, you saw 3rd against 4th yesterday. That was a tough match. I thought it Aston Villa Man City. That was a 1-0 to Aston Villa. So don't dismiss, even though the market dismisses, like they did Aston Villa, don't dismiss top 5 clashes. They flirt with being derby-style matches, don't they? They're top 5 for a reason, because they're not dodge pots. But obviously, with Napoli losing 3 matches against the top 9 with home advantage, you're going to be favouring Juve today. But then Juve 1-1 draw, best case scenario for them. Napoli did their best work in the 76th to 90th minute, scoring 7 goals second half away from home. 8 out of 11 Juventus goals have been scored second half. So we might see some second half goal action if these form lines are accurate. I say if because this is a derby style match. Got to remember that. Getafe and Valencia. Why didn't I research this match? 2.63 the favourite. I'm not going to entertain that, but I can do that for you. We can have a look through. There's always reasons why you're going to get a 2.38 the favourite, which is effectively the market telling you we can't split these two sides. Sorry, guys and girls. We can't split these two. So we're going to leave it to the in-play stats, or we're not going to trade at all. So the market leaves clues. Do please pay attention to them. Mason Greenwood has been in excellent form for Getafe. I wonder if he's going to be the difference today. A shining light from the Premier League. So let's just have a look at the recent form for Getafe and Valencia. So you can do a very quick research without having to write it down. So since the 27th of September, Getafe have lost only 1 match. That was away against Las Palmas last match. But they've had 6 draws in those matches. They're on the back of 2 consecutive home wins against Cadiz and Almeria. Hardly compelling stuff, that. But the Almeria match was a profitable trade for us, coming from behind in that particular match against a side yet to win this season. So they look very good at home, Getafe, don't they? Look very solid at home. No defeat in 7 at home. And they're playing a Valencia side who have scored and conceded in the last 4 away and have no win in 7 away matches. Again, the challenge table will give you an indication of where these two are in the league relative to each other and how they perform against sides near to their opponents. So it's 9th against 10th, so these two are very closely related. Getafe are yet to beat a top 12 side, home and away, albeit at home, 0-0, 1-1, 0-0. Valencia have 4 defeats and a 2-2 draw away against the top 13. Is that compelling enough to take them on? Conceding 2 goals far too regularly, albeit against the top 7. This is why you're up in the air, because you're going to oppose Valencia based on their 4 losses against the top 13 away, but then Getafe having trouble just even scoring against the top 12 at home. This is the reason why you get 2.38 and why I don't research, because it's inevitably a waste of time. You'll come to the same conclusion that the market makers come to. We can't split the two sides. That's what 2.38 is telling you. We can't split it. Sorry. Be careful. We can't read this match. 7 out of 9 Valencia goals scored away from home come second half. That might be an angle for you to look at. Only 4 goals conceded by Getafe at home, so they do keep things tight. 4 0-0s at half-time home, 2 at full-time for them. I don't have a strong opinion here, I'm afraid, as befits 2.38, the favourite. Let's have a look at any other matches throughout the day. Kortrijk and Westerlo, 2.5 the favourite. So again, you're getting a clue here. Haven't got a clue. It's the clue from the market makers. HNL 1 League at 4:30 in Croatia. Lokomotiv Zagreb, Hajduk Split a favourite away from home, 1.8 favourite there. I'll be watching that match. Coventry and Birmingham, 1.7 favourite Coventry. Let's have a quick look at the research for this one. So we've got the markets giving us a clue here, hasn't it? 1.7 favourite. I like seeing 1.5 to 1.7 favourites at home. This kind of odds band for a home team tends to be very reliable, particularly if they concede first and particularly if they're showing that they can do something via in-play stats. Got a really good strike rate, to be honest, so that's why 1.7 interests me. So let's have a look at Coventry and Birmingham. Is this a local derby? Arguably West Midlands derby or Midlands derby. So we'll have a look at that match. But I won't be researching the English Championship ordinarily. Like the French League 1, it's a very, very competitive league. It's very tough to get out of, isn't it? All of these sides are much of a muchness, really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins all season for Coventry. On 2 occasions have won 2 consecutive matches and then not won the third. But that's happened recently. They beat Millwall and Plymouth, failed to beat Ipswich most recently. Birmingham, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins for Birmingham, 5 of them coming at home. So they look a bit ropey on their travels, Birmingham. They're on a run of consecutive defeats, which is the current streaks and sequences table at soccerstats.com will tell you. 7 consecutive away defeats, no draw and 8 away for Birmingham. So you're immediately looking at an away side who don't travel that well. It's 17th against 15th, so both sides are in the wrong end of the table. But notably, isn't it, this is what the challenge table shows you. Birmingham have exclusively lost to the top 13 away from home. Simple as that. But equally, they've only played 1 of 16th and lower away from home. That was a 1-1 draw. So we've got nothing to gauge them against sides at this end of the table, do we? Nothing consistent to gauge them by. You can infer if they can beat 14th, they can beat 17th. So there's always a reason possibly to take these sides on. Coventry, they've only lost to West Brom at home. They look capable of keeping a side from scoring 2 goals, but they did have a 3-3 against Watford. But that was the only match outside of the top 7 where they conceded that second goal. So you might be favouring Coventry on that basis. And, well, Birmingham only exclusively losing to the top 12 might be given a chance themselves playing outside the top 12 today away from home. And looking at the goal times, I can't see why Coventry is such strong 1.7 favourites, but let the in-play stats decide that. 7 out of 10 goals scored second half at home for Coventry, so watch out for late action, 60th minute onwards for Coventry, and indeed second half conceding action for Birmingham. They've conceded 7 goals in the 45th to 60th minute and 7 goals in the 76th to 90th minute. They are very vulnerable away from home. 15 of 18 goals conceded away from home have come second half. If they're to get anything from this season, they've got to really ratchet it up defensively in the second half. Quite a high percentage of 0-0s at half-time, 44% and 56%. And compellingly for me, 5 0-0s at half-time away for Birmingham, none at full-time. So you might have carte blanche to take that 0-0 on. I can't see why Coventry is such strong 1.7 favourites here today. Maybe it's down to their unbeaten record against 7th and lower. But we don't have enough matches for Birmingham against 16th and lower for it to be a strong gauge. So I'm inconclusive about that particular match. English Premier League Cup. Watch out for that. The Premier League Development League tends to be a goal fest. 7 o'clock start will fit in nicely with the Dutch Eerste Divisie for you over 2.5 goal lovers. The Eerste Divisie and the Premier League second tier for the under 21s might provide you with plenty of goals. Bundesliga 2 at 5:30. We've got Hanover and Wien Wiesbaden, both favourites at home. It's a good league to attack via the in-play stats. And again, it's coverable at soccerstats.com as well. Moving on down. There's lots of peripheral stuff this evening. And it's in alphabetical order. The Eerste Divisie. I tend to have a bit of fun with the Eerste Divisie every Friday. Back over 2.5 goals and both teams to score in an accumulator. You're going to get a really good run for your money. Naturally, with the Eerste Divisie, any 0-0 at half-time, you could look at laying second half. Polish Ekstraklasa, 1.4 favourite Pogoń at home. And again, you can research that via soccerstats.com to see whether the odds are justified for Pogoń at 7:30. We've got the Portuguese La Liga, which we've covered. 2 Champions League sides, Braga and Benfica, playing today. Moving on down, the Scottish Championship. Lack of liquidity in the Betfair markets for that. Albacete, 5:30 odds on favourites. Espanyol odds on favourites in the La Liga 2, which is a good league to follow as well. Galatasaray, pre-Champions League, I believe. 1.29 favourites at home to Adana Demirspor. Could be vulnerable to pre-Champions League gala. So watch out for that match at 5 o'clock. I think I'll be following that one with interest. These sides are vulnerable pre-Champions League. Such an important competition. Normally my day off today. But if I am up and about, particularly 5 o'clock onwards, I will follow for you. Have a great Friday. I hope you make some green screens. See you tomorrow for a live chat webinar and full coverage throughout the day. Have a great day.